Imagine for a moment that everything you desire is not in the future but already present, that the joy, the success, the love, the abundance you seek is not something to chase, but something to embody now. Most people spend their lives chasing circumstances, believing that life's external events dictate their feelings, that happiness comes only when conditions are met. But what if I told you that the feeling you long for can be reversed? That the moment you assume it, the universe itself must respond, and your desire appears as if by magic. This is the law of reversibility, the secret hidden in plain sight. Your outer world is simply the mirror of your inner state. If you want something to appear, you do not run toward it in the physical. You reverse your feeling. You imagine the end, you feel the reality of it now, and the world bends to reflect it back to you. It is a law as simple as breathing, yet so few understand it. When you feel lack, worry, or limitation, you are moving in reverse, and the world reflects your inner disbelief. But when you reverse the feeling, when you live in the end, assuming it as true, you command the world to manifest it. This is not wishful thinking, it is knowing your own power, the power of consciousness to sculpt reality. See yourself now, already in possession of what you desire. Feel the emotions of accomplishment, the thrill of victory, the serenity of fulfillment. Let these emotions fill every cell of your body. Do not concern yourself with the how or the when. Those belong to the physical world. Your responsibility is to feel it real, to dwell in that state so fully that doubt cannot enter. You reverse the usual sequence. First comes the feeling, first comes the state of being, and only then do circumstances conform. This is how the invisible becomes visible. If you want love, feel loved. If you want wealth, feel wealthy. If you want recognition, feel recognized. Live as though it is already yours, and the world cannot help but align with the state you occupy. This is the effortless path, the path of those who know that reality is not outside them, but within, and it obeys the feelings they hold. Do not be fooled by appearances, for appearances are fluid and ever-changing. What you see in the world is not truth, it is the reflection of collective consciousness and your own thoughts. Reverse the feeling, and you reverse the outcome. If fear haunts you, feel courage. If doubt lingers, feel certainty. If lack surrounds you, feel abundance. Every emotion you feel is a signal, a command, a vibration that the universe follows. The law of reversibility teaches that you need not wait for life to change before you feel differently. You feel differently now, and life will catch up. It is the secret of all creation, the method by which dreams are not only imagined, but lived. Remember, life is a mirror. What you pour into it returns multiplied. Reverse your feeling, embody it fully, and watch the impossible become inevitable. There will be moments when your senses resist, when your mind protests, when reality seems stubborn. This is expected. Do not argue with what you see. Instead, intensify the feeling of your desired state. Imagine the scene in which your wish is fulfilled. Step into it as though it were already done. Smell it, hear it, feel it. Let every detail confirm its reality to your consciousness. In this act, you do not force the world. You align yourself with the inevitable. The law of reversibility is not coercion, but alignment. It is the reversal of ordinary thinking. Ordinary thinking waits for the outside to dictate the inside. Reversibility declares that the inside dictates the outside. Your feelings, your imagination, your belief are the architects of the world you experience. And as you persist in this inner reality, as you remain faithful to the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you will notice subtle shifts. Doors you never imagined open. People respond unexpectedly. Opportunities flow effortlessly. These are not coincidences. They are the natural result of your reversal. You have assumed the end, and reality, as it must, conforms. This is the art of living consciously, the secret of all great achievers, the method by which life obeys effortlessly. When you master the reversal, struggle ends. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you receive. You no longer hope, you know. And in this knowing, the miracle of life unfolds before you. So begin now. Do not wait for evidence. Do not wait for proof. Your task is simple. Reverse the feeling. Imagine it. Feel it. Live it. Speak in your mind the words of fulfillment. Breathe the air of success. Rejoice in the experience of having arrived. The outer world will not resist forever. It is powerless against the reality you create within. The law of reversibility is the ultimate freedom, the law of effortless manifestation. It asks only that you believe fully, feel fully, and persist. Everything else, the world itself, will fall into place. You do not chase miracles, you embody them. You live as the fulfilled being you already are. And when you do, there is no force on earth that can prevent your desire from appearing. Everything you experience in the outer world begins in the inner world. Every circumstance, every interaction, every opportunity, and every limitation is first born in consciousness. Many people believe that life is determined by what happens to them externally, that their happiness, success, and fulfillment are dependent upon conditions outside themselves. They look at the world, they see lack, struggle, and limitation, and they assume that these things are true. Yet nothing could be further from the reality of creation. The truth is that the outer world is a mirror, reflecting exactly what you feel and believe within. The secret lies in understanding that your feelings are not consequences of events, but the very causes of them. When you realize this, a profound power is unlocked, the power to reverse any condition by first reversing your inner feeling. If you long for wealth, love, health, or recognition, you must first embody the reality of already having it. You must feel it as though it is true, as though it has already appeared. This is the law of reversibility, and it is both simple and absolute. Your inner state is the seed from which the world grows, and if you change the seed, the tree cannot help but change. The outer world cannot resist the inner conviction of your consciousness. When you feel lack, you see lack. When you feel fear, you attract fear. But when you reverse that feeling, when you cultivate within yourself the experience of abundance, security, and joy, you command the universe to reflect it back to you. It is effortless, yet so few practice it. You see, the human mind is conditioned to react to the evidence of the senses. We look outside, we see conditions, and we believe them to be reality. But the senses are deceivers. They show you only the reflection of your inner thoughts. If you are filled with doubt, worry, or resentment, the world cannot help but mirror that state. But if you reverse your feeling, if you imagine the end, dwell in the fulfillment, and rejoice in the imagined reality as if it were already present, the mirror of life must conform. This is the essence of the creative power of feeling. It is not about wishing, hoping, or striving. It is about knowing, assuming, and feeling. Feelings are the language of creation, and the moment you speak the language of fulfillment within yourself, the world obeys. Imagine now that you desire love. Most would look for it externally, hoping someone will provide it, hoping circumstances will change. But the real law is that love begins within. Feel the warmth, the joy, and the connection of having that love now. Feel it so deeply that your senses are convinced of its reality. Do not concern yourself with the how or when, for the outer world is merely a reflection of this inner state. As you persist in this feeling, you will notice the world shifting. People, events, and opportunities will begin to appear, not by coincidence, but by the natural law that what is impressed upon your consciousness must manifest. Every moment spent in negative thought or in doubt is a moment wasted, for it reinforces the outer reflection you do not desire. But every moment spent dwelling in the feeling of fulfillment, imagining and sensing the reality of your wish, is a step toward its inevitable appearance. Reversing your feeling is not a mental exercise alone. It is an emotional commitment. It is living, breathing, and rejoicing in the state of your fulfilled desire. The senses may protest, circumstances may seem stubborn, yet the inner conviction must remain. This is the power of imagination married to feeling, the power to create life itself. It is absolute, impartial, and uncompromising. What you feel inwardly is what you will see outwardly. The world cannot contradict your inner state. To reverse the feeling is to reverse the reality. Imagine abundance instead of poverty, confidence instead of fear, recognition instead of neglect, and watch as your circumstances bend to align with the new inner reality. You are not asking, you are assuming. You are not hoping, you are knowing. This is the subtle art of manifestation, the divine law that governs all creation. Every great achievement, every miracle, every act of creation in the world begins with this simple truth. The inner feeling dictates the outer reality. The moment you accept this as fact and live accordingly, struggle disappears, and life unfolds effortlessly. The universe does not resist, it merely mirrors back what you hold in your consciousness. Reversing the feeling is therefore the first and most essential step in manifestation. Do not look to the world for proof, do not wait for evidence, do not let doubt or fear guide you. Instead, look inward, find the feeling of your fulfilled desire, and dwell in it fully. The outer world is powerless against a consciousness that knows and feels its truth. Everything you want, everything you long for, is already within you. Reverse your feeling, embody it, and watch as the outer world rearranges itself to make visible the reality that has always existed within. This is the law of reversibility, and it is as simple as breathing, as natural as life itself. Once understood and applied, there is no desire that will not appear, no wish that will not be fulfilled, and no dream that will remain unmanifested. You are the creator, the law is your instrument, and the world is the canvas upon which your inner state is painted. Feel, reverse, assume, and know. This is the power that transforms imagination into reality. The secret to manifesting anything you desire lies not in chasing it or struggling against life, but in living in the end, in assuming the reality of your wish as if it has already been fulfilled. Most people live in a state of longing, hoping that one day circumstances will change and bring them what they want. They wait for external proof, believing that happiness, success, love, or abundance must first appear in the world before they can feel it. But this is the mistake of ordinary thinking. The law of reversibility teaches that the sequence is reversed. First comes the inner feeling, the inner state, and then the outer reality conforms. To live in the end is to embody the reality of your fulfilled desire now, in the present moment, without questioning when or how it will appear. Imagine yourself already living the life you crave. Feel the emotions that would naturally arise if your wish were accomplished. Sense the satisfaction, the joy, the peace, the excitement, or the love as if it is happening now. Allow yourself to dwell fully in this state, to inhabit it completely. Do not concern yourself with the steps, the timing, or the seeming impossibility of circumstances aligning. Those belong to the world of the senses, which is always in flux, always reflecting the current state of collective consciousness. Your task is simpler, yet infinitely more powerful: to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and to remain faithful to it, regardless of what the senses reveal. When you live in the end, you are not pretending, you are not imagining a future possibility. You are acknowledging a truth that already exists within your consciousness. Your imagination is not fantasy, it is reality in the process of manifestation. As you persist in this feeling, your entire being vibrates with the reality of having already arrived. Your thoughts, words, and actions begin to align effortlessly with this inner state. You notice opportunities appearing, doors opening, and synchronicities unfolding, not because you are forcing them, but because the universe cannot resist a consciousness that knows its own truth. Resistance may appear at first. Your mind may doubt, your senses may protest, circumstances may seem unyielding. This is natural, for the outer world moves slowly to catch up with the inner state. Yet the more you dwell in the end, the more the outer world bends to mirror your inner reality. It is a process both subtle and unstoppable. To live in the end requires discipline of imagination and persistence of feeling. Each day, you must return to the inner state, recreating it, strengthening it, immersing yourself in the sensory experience of your fulfilled desire. Hear the sounds, see the sights, and feel the emotions as though your wish is already accomplished. The world may show evidence to the contrary, but evidence belongs to the senses, which are always secondary to consciousness. Reality is first imagined and felt within, then it is made visible outside. This is the ultimate secret of manifestation. The outer world is not the cause of your state, it is the effect. By living in the end, you reverse the ordinary flow of thought and action, becoming the magnet that attracts circumstances to your assumed state. You no longer act from lack, doubt, or hope. You act from the fullness of your fulfilled desire. Your life becomes effortless, guided by intuition and inspired action rather than struggle and force. Every step you take aligns with the reality you have already assumed. You begin to notice that life conspires on your behalf, that people, events, and opportunities appear in perfect harmony with your inner state. You are no longer a passive observer of circumstance, waiting for the world to grant your wishes. You are the conscious creator, knowing that what is assumed as real will inevitably become visible. The joy of living in the end is profound, for it frees you from the tyranny of time and the limitation of conditions. You are no longer waiting, you are knowing. You are no longer seeking, you are having. You are no longer striving, you are being. This is the effortless power of consciousness, the secret that has allowed every great achievement, every act of genius, every miracle in human history. The path is always the same: assume, feel, persist. To live in the end is not an occasional exercise, it is a way of being, a state of consciousness that transforms every experience. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you no longer need to consciously imagine, for your inner state has become a permanent reality. Your life reflects the fulfillment of every desire, not because you chased it, but because you embodied it. This is the law of reversibility applied in practice. The outer world conforms to the inner state of consciousness, and by living in the end, you align fully with the inevitable manifestation of your wishes. To master this is to master life itself, to live as a conscious creator, to move effortlessly through the world, and to know that everything you desire is already yours, waiting only for your awareness to acknowledge it. There is no struggle, no waiting, no fear. There is only the infinite certainty of the fulfilled state, and as you dwell in it, the world becomes a reflection of your inner perfection. Ordinary thinking conditions most people to believe that the outer world must first change before they can feel differently. They look at circumstances, see what appears to be lack, struggle, or failure, and assume that these external conditions dictate their inner state. They wait for evidence, for proof, for the right moment to feel confident, secure, or abundant. But this is precisely the thinking that keeps desires unfulfilled, that perpetuates disappointment and struggle. The law of reversibility teaches that the sequence is reversed. The inner state is always the cause, and the outer world is the effect. Your inner consciousness is the fertile ground from which your entire experience grows. To change your life, you must first change the feeling, the belief, the state within. This is not a superficial adjustment, not a fleeting thought or temporary wish. It is a profound shift in awareness, a conscious reversal of ordinary reasoning. When you assume the inner state you desire, when you live, breathe, and think as if your wish is already fulfilled, the outer world cannot help but reflect it. This is the great secret that those who have mastered life know instinctively. The world is obedient to consciousness. It does not resist the inner reality you hold. It bends to it, molds itself around it, and delivers the evidence of your assumption. Many try to act, to struggle, to push against circumstances, hoping to make life conform. But no action taken from lack, doubt, or fear can produce true results. All true change comes from a reversal of feeling. If you want success, you do not first seek it outside. You first feel successful. If you want recognition, you do not beg the world to notice. You first inhabit the state of being noticed. The world mirrors your state, and as long as you wait for it to change before you feel differently, you are moving against the current of the law. Reversibility demands a bold, fearless assumption. The inner state must lead and the outer reality will follow. This requires imagination, for imagination is the creative power of consciousness. You must see yourself, hear yourself, and feel yourself already in possession of what you desire. It must be so vivid, so alive, that your senses are convinced of its reality. The outer world is powerless against such inner certainty. Even if circumstances seem contrary, even if the senses protest, the inner conviction remains, unwavering and unshakable. This is not denial, not wishful thinking. It is knowing. Knowing that the inner state is the only reality, that the world you see is a reflection, and that by changing the reflection within, you inevitably change the world without. When you reverse ordinary thinking, you reverse the usual order of cause and effect. You no longer act from reaction, fear, or lack. You act from alignment, from confidence, from the certainty that what is assumed as true will appear. The outer world, which once seemed stubborn and unyielding, begins to respond. Opportunities open, doors appear, people align, and synchronicities unfold. Nothing is forced, nothing resisted. The universe simply mirrors your inner state. Reversing ordinary thinking also frees you from the tyranny of waiting, from the endless cycle of hoping and disappointment. You no longer look to the world to validate your worth, to confirm your dreams, or to bring you fulfillment. You recognize that all evidence is secondary to consciousness, that life is first imagined and felt within, and only then made manifest outside. This is the profound liberation of understanding the law of reversibility. You are the creator, the architect, and the conductor of your own life. Every thought, every feeling, every subtle nuance of belief shapes the world you experience. To act in accordance with ordinary thinking is to remain a victim of circumstance. To act in reversal is to become a master of life itself. Therefore, observe carefully the feelings you entertain, the states you dwell in. Reverse doubt into certainty, fear into courage, lack into abundance. Persist in these inner states, and the world will necessarily obey. The outer world cannot contradict what consciousness has assumed. This is the quiet, subtle, yet irresistible power of inner reversal. It asks nothing of force, nothing of struggle, nothing of hope. It asks only that you know, that you feel, and that you persist. Once this is understood, you begin to move through life effortlessly, guided not by chance, but by the inevitable response of the universe to your inner state. Ordinary thinking tells you to wait for life to change. Reversibility teaches you to change life by first changing yourself. In this simple yet profound reversal lies the power to manifest every desire, achieve every goal, and live a life of abundance, freedom, and joy. Nothing is impossible to the consciousness that knows itself as the cause, and to the individual who dares to reverse ordinary thinking and act from the end, rather than chase the effect. Persistence is the key that unlocks the door to all manifestation, for the outer world only obeys the inner state when that state is maintained with unwavering faith. Many begin the journey of assumption with excitement, vividly imagining and feeling the reality of their desires, but soon they are swayed by appearances, distracted by doubts, or convinced by the seeming immutability of circumstances. The law of reversibility, however, does not falter in the face of doubt. It responds solely to the constancy of your inner conviction. You must remain steadfast in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, regardless of what the senses reveal. To persist is not to stubbornly force reality, but to maintain a continuous inner experience of the end. It is to live as though your desire is already accomplished, to breathe it, think it, speak it silently within your consciousness, and to allow no counterfeiting thought of lack or limitation to intrude. Every time a doubt arises, you gently return to the feeling of fulfillment. This act of persistent inner devotion is the signal that the universe follows. Circumstances may appear slow to change, the world may resist with seeming obstinacy, yet your inner state is the law by which all things conform. Persistence shapes the subtle vibrations of consciousness, which are far more potent than any visible obstacle. Imagine wealth and continue to feel wealthy, even as bills arrive, even as accounts seem empty, even as others question or doubt. Imagine love and continue to feel love, even if it has not yet materialized in your external world. Imagine health, and continue to feel vibrant, even if symptoms suggest otherwise. This persistence is not blind faith. It is the deliberate cultivation of a reality that has already been impressed upon your imagination. The outer world cannot contradict the inner state indefinitely. The more persistent you're feeling, the sooner the world yields. Each day that you maintain the inner experience, each hour that you refuse to let the senses dictate your emotions, you deepen the reality of your fulfilled desire. This is how miracles occur. The mind may seek evidence, the senses may demand proof, and yet these are all secondary. Your task is to remain faithful to the inner state, to dwell continually in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. As you persist, you notice subtle changes first, an opportunity, a coincidence, a conversation that seems orchestrated to align with your inner state. These are signs, not rewards, but confirmations that the law of reversibility is in motion. Persistence transforms imagination into reality. It bridges the invisible with the visible. Without persistence, the mind vacillates, the inner state dissolves, and manifestation is delayed. With persistence, what seems impossible becomes inevitable. This is why all great creators, all achievers, all masters of life have understood the power of unwavering inner conviction. They persist in the feeling of their end, regardless of appearances, and the world bends to accommodate it. There is no need for struggle, no need for force, no need for anxiety. All that is required is the deliberate, consistent maintenance of the inner state. The outer world is powerless to oppose a consciousness that persists. This persistence is the demonstration of faith in action. It is not passive. It is vibrant, alive, and active within the depths of imagination. It is the refusal to be swayed by fleeting appearances or temporary setbacks. It is the steady assurance that what is imagined and felt is already a reality. Even when the senses scream contradiction, the persistent mind remains steadfast. This is the hallmark of mastery. The ability to hold the inner state with such clarity, such intensity, such fidelity, that the outer world is compelled to obey. You must train yourself to notice when you drift from the feeling of fulfillment and gently, consistently return to it. Each return strengthens your inner conviction. Each act of persistence reinforces the reality of your desire. Over time, this unwavering inner state becomes second nature, and your life begins to reflect the fulfillment you have assumed. Persistence is not about effort in the external world. It is about devotion in the inner world. It is the consistent practice of living in the end, feeling the reality of your wish, and refusing to be influenced by temporary appearances. Through this practice, the impossible becomes possible, dreams become lived experiences, and the outer world becomes a faithful mirror to the inner reality you persist in maintaining. The law of reversibility rewards only persistence. As long as you hold fast to the inner state, your desire must appear. All else is illusion, all else is secondary. Therefore, persist and do not waver. Persist, and the universe aligns. Persist, and the miraculous becomes inevitable. Persist, and you become the conscious creator of your own destiny, the master of your inner world, and the architect of every external manifestation that follows. True manifestation is not the result of effort, struggle, or external striving. It comes effortlessly when you align fully with the state of your desire. Most people approach life as though they must push, force, or negotiate with circumstances to obtain what they want. But this approach is the very source of frustration and disappointment. The outer world can only respond to the inner state you occupy. When you embody the feeling of your fulfilled desire, when you live as though the end has already been accomplished, the universe cannot resist but to conform. Effort is not in action or labor. Effort is in alignment, in holding your consciousness in harmony with the reality you wish to manifest. Once you have assumed the inner state and persist in it, the manifestation of your desire becomes inevitable. You no longer chase, for the chasing is the product of doubt. You no longer beg, for begging arises from a sense of lack. You no longer hope, for hope implies uncertainty. Instead, you know. You know that what you have assumed as true will appear. This knowing is effortless power, a quiet certainty that moves the world without struggle. The law of reversibility demands only that you maintain the feeling of fulfillment. You do not fight the outer world. You simply exist in the inner reality of your desire. And as you persist in this inner state, the outer world gradually reshapes itself, revealing the evidence of your assumption. Struggle ends when you align fully, for alignment is the path of least resistance. It is the recognition that all power resides within consciousness, and the outer world is simply its reflection. By living as the fulfilled being you wish to be, you draw circumstances, people, and events into harmony with your inner state. T. Here is no need for forcing, convincing, or striving against opposition. The universe moves to reflect the certainty you carry. Your inner reality is the law, and your outer world cannot resist it. This effortless manifestation requires patience, yes, but not anxious waiting. It requires faith, yes, but not blind hope. It requires unwavering attention to your inner state, ensuring that it is consistent with the reality you wish to experience. Every thought, every feeling, every quiet belief must be in harmony with your end. As you persist, subtle signs emerge. Synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, supportive people, and events that appear perfectly orchestrated. These are not random, they are the natural outcome of your alignment. Effortless manifestation is not about doing more, it is about being more. Being more in the sense of embodying the reality of your desire, feeling it, living it, and knowing it as true. Once this is mastered, life flows naturally, effortlessly, beautifully. The world reflects your inner certainty, and the miraculous becomes ordinary. All that remains is to maintain your state, to nurture the inner conviction, to refuse the sway of appearances or doubt. In this alignment, life is no longer a series of struggles, no longer a chain of frustrations. It becomes a dance of conscious creation, a play of imagination and feeling, a living proof of the law of reversibility. Nothing is outside your power. Every circumstance, every encounter, every event responds to the inner reality you hold. You are no longer at the mercy of conditions. You are the master of your inner state, and the outer world becomes a faithful reflection. Manifestation is effortless when you assume the end, persist in the feeling of fulfillment, and align completely with your inner truth. Struggle ceases, lack disappears, hope transforms into knowing. You attract what you are, not what you chase. You live as the fulfilled being, and the universe obeys. This is the ultimate freedom, the ultimate mastery, the ultimate power of conscious creation. By embodying the end, by living fully in the inner reality of your desire, you become the living proof of the law of reversibility. The outer world cannot resist the inner certainty. It bends, shapes, and arranges itself to match the state you maintain. In this alignment, the impossible becomes inevitable, the unseen becomes seen, and the dream becomes living reality. There is no effort beyond the persistence of your inner state, no struggle beyond the alignment of your consciousness, no obstacle that can withstand your unwavering assumption. Effortless manifestation is your birthright. All you must do is assume, feel, and persist. The world cannot help but respond. You do not chase miracles. You embody them. You live them. You are them.